Oh, this will be a 2-for-1 recap here since I missed the last one. If you guys remember where I left off with Cass was I had finished. I think this is the last recap at least. Um, I had battled off the opponent inside myself, basically playing like similar, not chess, like a game of Risk or War or something like that, where it's like the different systems in my body were things that needed to be conquered, held, and then eventually like exterminating the foreign entity that was like wreaking havoc on my body. So I do that, and then I work on like restoring myself, getting my energy back up because I know like that's half the fight. The other half of the fight is going to be whatever happened to Miriam and Lyria out there, if they're still even alive. Um, so I do that. I come out of it, and man, it is a disaster. So the not the lab, like it's like the living area, because like we had like the lab with all the notes, and then we had the living area that like was just kind of like a living room type thing. Like there was some couches and stuff set up, like uh and it's a disaster. Like the trash is overflowing, like it smells like sickness and death. um Miriam and Lyria are on death's door. Like they are like almost like desiccated at this point, but like just hanging on to life. Um, Two of the assistants, Joriana and Wagyu, are very sick. Um, Amina is like sitting there in shock. There are two dead, one from a gunshot, because they ended up with like hysteria or something like that, and then one from like the sickness that has like spread outward from me. Um, and Amara's there as well. So Amara, Zug, Veriman, and I kind of get briefed on what's going on. Like they've quarantined us uh, out of fear that whatever is going on might be highly contagious. Um, I get a assertion of what we have, what the supplies we have, um, the state that everyone's in. I kind of like do like a cursory probe and see that like Miriam and Lyria definitely need treated first, but like also it seems like their Nui gifts are just gone. Um, so that's terrible for them because like that helps put up such a fight in these scenarios. Um, excuse me. So I start formulating kind of a plan of action of what I'm going to do, taking from what I've learned from my previous session, where I kind of learned some tips and tricks of fighting this thing. Uh, the problem is Miriam and Lyria are so far along, and the fact that they don't have the Nui proper gifts anymore, it just seems like it's like running amok in their system. Like with me, is like there was always a part of me that was kind of fighting it, and now it's just kind of like actively ravaging them. Um, and it does seem like it's a virus. Neither one will make it through the night. Um, so my plan is to I basically like kind of like feel out from the DM like what I know about each of them as far as their strengths and weaknesses go, and like Miriam, the DM says like Miriam is known for like having better stamina than Lyria when it comes to like healing people. Like now both of them are like inferior to me when it comes to, because like it's like Miriam was healing like a couple people whereas I was healing like dozens with like the full rejection therapy kind of thing. Um, so I was like, okay, well, in that case, and then Miri and Lyria would be like better at if something goes wrong, like course correcting, or like the more I don't say versatility so much, but like the way it was worded, it was like it makes sense to do her first. Miriam might be able to hold on longer, and Lyria might make the process easier for me. So I basically, they're in such a state right now that like I need to use basically all the medicine we have left to put her in a like almost like a really deep medically induced coma, similar to what they did with the kids, but like not having the same medicine or technology to do it as efficiently, but just kind of to slow her body down, cool it down, or would anything like that. Um, and then I kind of excuse me, set to work on fixing her up, and I realized that it's different. So like whenever I was dealing with Laku and myself, it felt like I was dealing like, I learned this later I think in the next session, but like I'll kind of explain it here. Is there's like three levels to this virus. There's the active, the active mode, where it's like you're almost against a sentient opponent. Then there is a level below that where it's like there's a set course of action, like it's like a pre-programmed virus that gets released into a system, and it has like set parameters in which it operates in. Still complicated, still very deadly, still difficult to fight, but like it doesn't have the same, there's not the same sentience there. So like it's more about, whereas the other one, it's like you're sitting across the table, playing a game against an opponent. With this one, it's like solving a puzzle. It has like set, like it has like defined rules to its like engagement, I guess is the way to look at it. So it's still challenging, but it is easier to deal with than the thing I dealt with, which is scary because that's what the kids are experiencing currently. So like that's a battle unto itself. Um, yeah, so I work my way through Lyria, and I get her stable. I eradicate the presence from inside her, and I come out, and Amara's in tears, and uh, and and she tells me that like Miriam died. And before I can even ask anything, like Miriam basically had passed during this thing. Like he coded, and he had no more vital signs, and because we have no equipment in here, like there wasn't much she could do to like preserve life, because she was already tending to Wagyu and Jorian. I don't know if she had administered anything to him, like if she did CPR or anything like that, but like he was in such a weakened state. I don't even know if like CPR would have even attempted to do anything. That's where I was put on pause. So during this time, I'm working out things like, because I think I said something like, just because he's dead doesn't mean he stays dead. Because Cass is just like, Cass isn't having it today, like not today kind of thing. He's got all this new stuff he learned from. I said I finally kind of hit the reward cycle for the sessions that I put in of research, of healing people, like the little things that I've kind of done. I got to see the payoff in my character, kind of like the glow up blow up kind of thing, in his thing. Now a lot of it is still like theoretical, but some of it is practical, just because like I said, the work on healing others and like experiencing like the things that I've experienced. So there's some practical elements to it. I have like plans in my mind to how I'm going to heal him, and I kind of forget what the original plans were, because I was sitting there like working it out with myself, like, okay, how am I going to go about this, like do this. It wasn't actually until the DM postponed the session by about like 20-30 minutes, when I was sitting there talking to Tymir, that I came up with the plan that or not that I came up with, but I said something where I was like, oh, like I could try something like this, and it actually ended up being what I ended up doing. So like shout out to Tymir for inspiring me to come up with the actual plan that does, spoiler alert, save Miriam. So I get into the next session, and I kind of left off on that line. I'm like, okay, well now I can't fail. I gotta try it. And what I try to do is, I try to use that newfound thing to. I try to find that newfound thing to reach out for those like little like tendrils of light and life that are like connected to living things inside Miriam. And it's like, I did find out that he had just like died minutes earlier, like, so it was like he's still It wasn't like he had like died early in the procedure, which I think like worked to my benefit. Um, and it's like, there's the whole idea of like in the medical world, like you can be clinically dead for certain periods of time and then like still come back. So I set Amara to administer CPR. I was basically using like my Nui arts to manually like work his like heart and get his brain like blood and oxygen and all this other stuff. Um, uh, what's it called? We kind of set in with that plan of action, but I forget. Like I said, I when I get in there and start searching for it, I do manage to find like one string and I grab a hold of it like really tight, and it wants to pull like something from me, like it's like desperate, like a caged animal or like a cornered animal on its like last legs. So I'm trying to focus on holding on to it, and it drags me back into that state of like that weird set of eyes where I see things that are I wouldn't normally see, or like I kind of like view things through almost like a spiritual kind of point of view. And I explained, and this was the other part of my plan that ended up not failing or not coming through. I was like, okay, DM, is there a way I can like communicate with the outside world that like if we want to save Miriam, we need like I need something from each of you, kind of thing. And because like that was the whole idea, is like it's a lot less nefarious and shady if I like get some consent to do what I'm about to do. But I can't get it. Like I'm stuck in here, so I kind of have to make that hard choice of, do I go forward with it and then work out the consequences later, or what? And at this point, like I decide to do it because like I'm like, listen, if I do this, I can basically I can pay it back later. Like I can like possibly restore what was taken from everybody else. Like everyone gives a little, Miriam gets to live, and hopefully it works out. So what I do is I reach out to the other strands of life around me, and it's like specifically Amina, Zug, Vermin, and Amara, and like myself is kind of like attached to this as well. And like my goal is to take a bit from each of those and give it to Miriam, so that like he has like the spark of life back inside of him. Now I know what's gonna happen, and it's gonna be like it's gonna pull, it's gonna take too much, it's gonna like it's a desperate thing that doesn't understand, and I don't have the finesse or fine control over it. So like I'm trying to prepare myself mentally for that moment when it tries to take too much. So we I set all this up, and like my concern is like I don't want it to like kill anyone else out there. Like if it comes down to like Miriam or someone else, like I gotta let Miriam go. But I do it, and it comes in like this giant wave, and I think it's because I drew from multiple sources, which is, it actually kind of worked out the way I wanted, because I felt like if I drew from a single force, like I was just gonna take that person's life force and put it into Miriam and probably kill that person in the process. But because it was all of them, and it was such an overwhelming amount, that it I think it worked out the way I wanted it to. Um, Hopefully, we'll see as far as like any long term effects go. Um, let's see here. So I do that, and it works, and I'm able to heal Miriam back up to a stabilized point. Uh, Through this process, which is crazy. Like I said, you're basically so the idea that like you can bring someone back from the dead, like when they've coded, is like a medical thing, but like to do it like through sheer like Nui energy like that, I guess is kind of unheard of. It's like once someone dies, like you're past the healing arts, like you can't do anything. So this is, I come to later find out, like this is like a first of our kind kind of thing. Um, so I get Miriam stabilized, and I come out of this state, and I immediately start to go check on everybody. Um, like Vermin has like heart palpitations, and what's it called? Like, and yeah, like yeah, exhaustion. Zug has like exhaustion, and um, it's almost like he's been like drained of blood. Or Vita. Amara has the same, like the heart palpitations, and then myself, and I forget about Amina in the panic of it all. But um, as I go through all of them, I do scan the room at some point and see to her, and she had the heart palpitations, high blood pressure, so I stabilized that. I think I did that later. Like I left her go longer, which is like it's a mistake on his part, and like he'll probably be a little hard on himself over it, especially if anything comes out of it. But I think he can reverse any effect, not the actual like aging suck thing or like the life force suck thing. I mean, he can reverse that if he gets another donor, but yeah. So there's that. Um, Sorry, I said that's the problem with talking about this. I was getting an idea for what I need to do next session. Uh, as far as like the whole donor thing, it's like, listen, like I could probably save these kids and give them back something, but I'm gonna need some donors out there. But I also need to like fine tune the whole doning art so that uh, that these kids can be saved. Um, I plan to heal Joriana and stabilize Wagyu. That was my initial plan. Um, and then I, I go, I kind of like alter this a couple times. I talk to Zug and kind of say like, listen, Zug's out of it, like, and I try to like heal him up for some of the exhaustion and everything like that. Um, but like it's still like it's set into a degree where it's just like their body needs a hard reset. Like it's the I don't think I can like give them energy so much as without giving them mine. Like and I still need to heal people, so like I can't. I try to cure some of the symptoms of exhaustion, but like at the end of the day, he's still like really out of it. And I kind of finally convey a message. I'm like, oh wait, like let me go write a note so that way like they can match up with what Zug's trying to explain to them if they wake up and I pass out from this healing process, because I don't know what level exists inside Joriana and Wagyu yet. Um, we so I go through like a couple iterations of plans, and it's not until um, I was like, okay, well, like let me. I put I do the transplant. I can't remember if I mentioned this, but like one of the things I had planned to do was I tried to transplant my white blood cells into their system, and basically have them act as things to help them fight off the RNG pop up that this disease ravages their system. So it's like it ravages the digestive system, and then it bounces off to the endocrine system or something like that. So it's like the white blood cells come in and they like help fix up the digestive system. So it's like it just gives them more time. Like that was the initial intentions of this. But once I got in there, I realized this is the third iteration of the virus. This is the low thing where it basically attacks an area, and then whenever that area is sufficiently ravaged, it just moves on to the next. And like it's just like it's a lower intensity infection, we'll call it, or a lower intensity like degradation of the body. And it's like a third iteration of it, which I still don't understand how it happened. Like I know how Miriam and Lyria got infected because they were in direct contact with me, but I'm still curious as to how three of the people got sick. I don't know if the one who got shot got sick as well, but we'll like that'll be something we'll figure out later. So I go into Joriana, and I basically realize that I can quarantine it. It's like I can like basically keep it in her digestive system for now, and like let it like do some damage and stuff like that. But then I can go over and do the same with Wagyu and kind of isolate it. So like I can isolate the damage, and I do that. So I do it to both, and I come out of it, and I'm like, well, DM, how am I feeling? Because I'm thinking like at this point I might be a little spent, and this is one of those ones where it's like I am definitely spent with what happened after Miriam, um, but like I'm like I'm not at the point of sheer exhaustion yet. So he says, "Oh, like I feel like I could go back in and do it." And I did mention like there was like a prayer to what's her name? Wow, I'll be upset because there's just so many names. I can always forget one. Uh, the life's embrace chick. We'll say for right now because I don't want to drag this out too long. Um, the so I kind of kind of make the prayer to her of like help me out through this, like help me get through this. And there's something that's gonna occur to Cass in the next session, that because I've always kind of joked the idea that like he shakes his fist at like the sky that this deity doesn't come down and help him, and that's not the way he takes it at all. It's more like it can't hurt to ask for help from someone who out there is greater than himself, kind of thing. So it's like even if she doesn't like show up in person and be like, oh, here's the healing juice you need for it, he's gonna kind of come to the real, not realization, but entertain the possibility that some of his advancements recently, or his ability to like push himself to certain levels of exhaustion, might be because of her. It might be like more of an indirect, invisible hand than he realizes. And I think if anything, it might bolster his faith a bit in the process, like kind of thing of, like I said, like because Cass has never been like, oh, you failed me, you haven't been here to help me, kind of thing. It's just like, for him, it might be like it might not be as a tangible thing, but if he looks at objectively what he's been able to accomplish since he started to kind of reach out to her, like there has been leaps and bounds involved. So they, as a player, she might not be responsible at all. As a character, Cass is definitely entertaining the idea that, oh, maybe I've just been missing the signs that are out there. Like I'm doing something that no one else in my race has been able to do. Even though like there are people far above me when it comes to like their healing gifts, or I'm able to like push myself further past the point of exhaustion and still do this effectively. Like maybe like she's there for me kind of in a more silent method. So it's definitely interesting. His whole like, I don't want to say he wrestles with faith so much, but like it's a whole, I guess it's like almost a whole separate recap on its own, which I might do later because I got some stuff to do here. So all that to say is I pushed myself pretty far, and I managed to actually go back into both of them and eradicate the last vestiges of this virus. I realized that like given enough time, the virus might be able to break out, but I did the same process for both, where I basically implant them with the white blood cells. I supercharge them, and then I also attune their body to them so like they wouldn't reject the thing. And that's something I have a lot of experience with now, because after I healed that ward of people, that was literally just nothing but like rejection, people who were like rejecting like organ or blood transplants, stuff like that. So like I'm actually pretty good at that now, just because I've done like hundreds of cases of it. Interestingly, like this is where I kind of come up with the idea that I can implant something that's akin to like an antivirus, like the opposite of what's happening to these people, where I can make like a concoction of my Nui energy gift, I guess you would call it, but like kind of like in a virus type sense, and put it in somebody and have it like do certain things that are more positive in nature, like putting it into an athlete and having like the virus like deal with like the lactic acid buildup, like maybe like better like basically supercharging their lungs to get like better oxygenation, like so that they fatigue slower, and like they can like operate more efficiently, like just like like basic biological things that might make someone else better. And then like same way, like fighting diseases, like things like like maybe like high blood pressure, cholesterol, things like that, like just overall things for health. And I might be able to program these viruses. Now I think the DM called it an antivirus. Like I still consider it like almost like a virus, but it's more of a beneficial virus, so antivirus works. But yeah, like still kind of like this external thing I can implant in people, and then have it last as long as it lasts. Like like I don't know I don't know exactly how long it was last. Like, because with this guy, like the thing that I'm fighting, it's like he can put it in there and it kind of does its thing for a while. Now, I don't know if the kids are being actively manipulated, so that might be less of a duration. But we're getting off topic. That's just something I like. There's a bunch of stuff I feel like I can actually do now that is more practical to not necessarily combat situations, but like my job as a medic beyond like fixing you up. Like I'm starting to get to the point because when I talked to the DM originally, I said, DM, I want to make a character that's a healer, but that also can like buff party members. Like I want to be like the pure true support class. And he's like, you probably can't do that to start player. Like that's too much to ask for. What I can do is I can offer you the new Atari race. They're really good healers. So like it's kind of like the concept that I originally asked for, kind of fleshing itself out. And like now I'm starting to get into like some of the buff things that I can do. Like I don't even know what the whole because like I can basically expend energy to like strengthen those life strands. I don't know the effect that has, but I'm assuming it's something spiritual in nature. And by spiritual I mean like spirit based, like your key and stuff like that. I don't know that that's the case, but we're gonna find out eventually. Beyond like shifting life around, the viruses like this giving people my supercharged white blood cells, things like that. Like there's a lot of like techniques I'm kind of developing. I don't want to say all at once, but it's techniques that have evolved from like the amalgamation of things that I've done since I've come to the Darklands. uh all that to say, um I heal the remaining two. I think this is when I go and I fix up what's it called? What's her name? Ariana. That's probably not her name, but it's close to that. She's whatever. She's there like comatose and everything. She's in shock still. But I fix her up as well. And I go over to Zug and Zug is like out of it, so I go scribble in the note and it was basically like, because I think I like scribbled to like two things. It was just like, do this with Wagyu. I'm gonna take care of Joriana, and I'd say like both have a quarantined digestive system. Do anything you can, because like my fear when I was doing this note is if I pass out in the process, no one's gonna be able to relay the information to the first person who wakes up. Like if I succumb to exhaustion, and then like the last thing says is like fixed everyone, Cass, or like fixed everyone. Now I sleep, Cass. So it's like this, and like there's like a big X over the rest of the note, like you can disregard the above instructions, like everyone's fixed kind of thing. And it was like there's a very funny moment that comes out of it later. So I get myself cleaned up because I'm like still like in that like miserably sick, like just the sweat and the sickness kind of thing from the process I went through, and I just pass out on the bed. I wake up sometime later, and it's just like an nondescript time later. I find out that, or I look in the rooms. Miriam and Lyria are resting. Zug and Veriman are not there. I go out to the main room. There's two guards at the door. I have a very heartfelt conversation with them. That I thought was a good bit of role playing. I felt it for sure, where Cass learns what happened, and Cass actually was he had a theory, and the theory ended up being right. The theory was that Veriman and Zug were taken in because there was one of the apprentices were murdered, in the panic of it all, and yeah, it's that's what ended up happening. The guards were well, the guard I talked to was surprisingly a little bit more sympathetic towards Cass, and Cass was very. I think Cass was very objective towards it. Like he's like, I understand like the process. Like it wasn't like he was being petulant and being like, you need to let my friends go kind of thing. It's like, listen, there was something that happened and we need to figure out what happened. And they said like, well, you can't testify because you're unconscious. I was like, yes, that's correct. I can't testify as to what happened here. So we'll let it up to, like, at the end of the day, like, we are in their area and everything like that, and like hopefully like I've eroded some of the bias that exists down here, and then like Amara, and I don't know who else can testify there, but like it's probably Amara and then some of the other things. So it's like it's not looking the best for them, but we'll see what we can do to help them out. Because I gotta save Zug, if not for me, for Timir, because apparently he's Timir's favorite. Uh, um, I kind of like passed my condolences, like the one I couldn't save, and then the other that died while I was unconscious. Like, it's like I tried to save as many people as I could here, and at the end of the day, I did save everyone that when I was awake. So we definitely moved in the right direction. And then that's where the guy was like, we for what it's worth, like, we do know what you're down here for, and like your works have kind of spoken for yourself, and hopefully that'll weigh in when it comes to like public opinion of what's going on here. And I also told him, I was like, listen, because they're like, your research notes have been suspended and everything like that. I was like, that's actually okay. I think I've solved it. I need you to like get a hold of, hopefully Aramis, but whoever like you're allowed to talk to about this, and then we'll set up a meeting. And I was like, I think I'm near the point where I can at least address what's happening to the kids. I don't say this exactly, but like in my mind, I can at least address what's happening to the kids. I can potentially start to heal them, but it's like the thing is it might be more about finding the source of it all, because if he's able to like do this over like 12 kids, he might just be able to kill the rest while I'm healing one. So it's like that's going to be the problem. But I don't convey any of this to that guy. Like, it's more, I just need to talk to Amara or Amaris. Uh, it's not Amaris, but it's again, like the names. I'm just a little out of it, so I don't have them offhand. But you know who I'm talking about, the magnate. I should just say the magnate. And talk to one of those, because those are the two people I trust right now, and then they can kind of like run it up the line, or decide what to do if it's the magnate. I was like, I kind of like thanked him and everything like that, like for going to pass along. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna go get some food. And then he said, oh, someone should be along shortly. I go get some food, and I start like running through my mind like the what I need to like all of the stuff I need to explain to the magnate, because like there's so much, like there's like a history lesson involved. There's like the big conspiracy that it's someone else doing this. That like I now kind of have like proof that like there's a sentient force behind it. Um, Healing the people, being able to cure the affliction in a way, knowing what the affliction actually is. Like, there's a host of stuff, and I'm like running through it. And Lyria comes out, and she kind of catches me in this like thought train. And this is where the two of us get to sit down, and she like this is where like the funny joke comes out of. I like I said, I thought it was a very sweet, genuine moment, but also very like kind of poignant too, where she says about like the miracle that I performed, and I like in the least smug way possible, I kind of had to genuinely ask her which one, and I said, "Are you talking about removing the affliction from someone, or bringing Miriam back to the dead?" And she's like, the fact that you have to ask which miracle kind of speaks to to what's going on here. And she says it is about bringing Miriam back to the dead. And I kind of hit her with the idea that, listen, I was like, I don't know that I want this getting out. Like, and she's like, well, like being able to bring someone back to life is something I don't know that I want to hold back from the greater scientific community. And I dump a real load on her when I say it's not quite so simple as just talent or a skill or a learned ability bringing someone back from the dead like that. Like, it requires sacrifice from yourself and those around you. And now that I've done it, that I've kind of crossed that ethical line, I don't feel like I'm in a position to be the one who says this should be out there or it shouldn't be out there. I don't think it should be out there, because I think it's going to change the course of history for our race, in a potentially very negative way. Um, if people figure out how to do this, because like I said, I don't know that it's something special to me. I think it's something that could be learned. When people learn that it's a thing they could do, I think there's just a matter of time before some of the more talented people in our race start to make the connection. And then you kind of have this Pandora's box moment of you have a race of people who can steal the life force of others unwillingly and use it to bolster their own or give it to others. And it's like, in the best case scenario, when it's used the most ethically, of like, let's say you have a married couple and they're bonded for life, and the husband is sick and the wife says, I'll give a portion of myself so that the husband can live, so that as opposed to me living to 150 and my husband dying at 75, we both live to 100 and we get those years together. Like that, I think, is kind of like an ethical way to go about it, for sure. But there's so much opportunity for misuse of this ability that it's scaring Cass. So at the end of the day, he's going to tell Lyria what it is, what it takes, and kind of explain his hypothetical ramifications for it. As far like kind of the scenario I painted versus like the scenarios of misuse and things like that, and let her decide if she wants to publish it or if she wants to keep it. Now, in my off time since that session, I've been racking my brain over it. And I think one of the things I came up with, which is kind of hilarious, is it's almost like a religious perspective, whereas like if you take, let's say you take a group of, almost like a Dalai Lama kind of situation, where you take like someone from the Darklands and someone from Nui proper, and you kind of groom them. So you find someone, like you find, like, let's say you find three from each that are talented, like with like Nui Arch or something like that, or like, the Darklands is gonna be a little fuzzy there, but like the idea is like you want to have some semblance of balance between uh, both factions, and you basically groom them to on a life of like ethos, in addition to like medicine and like kind of, I don't want to say piety so much, but like altruism, where it's like you're trying to make like the best of the people, and then of those three, like up to three of them kind of get given this information on how to rearrange life like that, and you kind of keep the circle small, and you like create these specialists that like are more focused on like the ethos of it than like the experimentation or the ways that it can be used. So it's like, and it was just like, it was more of like a thought thing of like there'd be a lot to work out with it, but something like that might work. I'm sure there's still cracks in the theory behind it, or like the that could be available for misuse. It's like, do you build like that resentment among the three that you chose, the chosen ones? Like, do people try to assassinate them? Like, there's all kinds of other like crazy stuff. But it's like, it might be like one of the better courses of action rather than just letting it out there for everybody to use and then potentially misuse. So that wasn't almost where I ended. Lyria found some interesting notes in Borman's journal. She found something about Zani Yalizana, who was the basically the ultra, the super Hitler of our race, and his name was like AKA Kane. He left off world and did terrible things, like he killed entire planets of people with plagues and stuff like that, and he was either captured or killed. A god of some sorts came down to our planet and isolated. The god's name was Karina Levi. For those of us in generation who've been around for a while, Karina Levi is a child of New Genesis. Um, we like Kari, I think, knows her really well, and like the rest of us have all heard that name in our characters' histories and everything like that. It's like she's someone up there in the Children of New Genesis, which was like a very cool tie-in to the old world of Generations. Um, the government made a deal that they would exterminate all people who had like the potential like him, and we would also like isolate ourselves from the galactic community. The last notes mentioned that the leader of the group, the Seed to Stars, I believe it's called, um, they have started to move in a way that mimics the rhetoric of the Blood Rose. The Blood Rose was the cult that Zani Alizana had formed up centuries ago that kind of like preached his decay and death philosophies, which are the not the philosophies but the whims and wills of the other side of our energy, of our Nui energy, the Quarry thing. So it's like there's that whole idea of like if Cass does start to use Quarry energy, will he be driven mad like the Kane dude, or will like how long will he be able to hold out before like because like that's the thing is the energy itself seems to have like a level of sentience to it that drives constantly seeks out and drives for this force. Um, that was where I was put on pause. That was the end of a very crazy session and like a very very significant like progress for Cass. It was a great one, and the cool part is I potentially have another session tonight, so we'll see what happens with that with the recap. Hopefully, I didn't forget too much, and I'll catch you guys later.